Hello YouTube world! So we were in Vietnam in the second week of September. Though September is actually a very rainy period there, we yet managed it. The best period to visit is actually January to April, which is the touristy period. But overall throughout the year, it's just like it comes and goes. Sometimes there's sun, 5 minutes of rain, so it's totally manageable. So if you have clicked on this video, today we are gonna talk about everything that you need to know before you visit Vietnam.
Honestly, this is a video that we would have wanted to watch before going for a trip to Vietnam, and this is literally your ultimate guide. So follow along.
We will also talk about the places that we visited and the specific things that you need to keep in mind if you're going to those places. So if you are interested in that, stay till the end of the video, watch those tips if you're visiting those places.
So the number one deciding factor in your trip to Vietnam is going to be flights. And there's a good news for you. Though this video is not sponsored, Vietjet Air has opened up direct flights from Mumbai, New Delhi and a lot of cities in India. Basically, we were lucky enough because when we booked through Vietjet Air's official website, make sure that it's the official website because you never know what happens nowadays. We had to only pay taxes and basically your flight charges would zero at times, and at times it was around 90 or 200. So one tip that I'm going to give you is that make sure before you pay for your flights, you have like different windows open for all of your flights that you want to take, and make sure that you know the cities that you want to visit, and then make sure that your flight timings that suit you are available. And it's not like one flight is like 000 and the other one is going up to like 3,000 rupees, because then you're just not saving up by the end. Right now, the flight charge is minimal, so try and see which one you're booking, because there are some which are 160 or 200 or 300 or 900, and obviously you want to go for the cheapest option. So tip number one, you must have heard this a lot, try and go incognito before you search for any of these flights so that the algorithm doesn't push your prices high because you keep checking it so much often. Tip number two, the website is a little weak. It's not really a place where they're used to having so many people at the same time on their server. Just know that it might crash, but that's not that you're getting cheated upon or anything like that. It's not a scam, it's an actual website. Make sure you change the USD currency to INR, and make sure that you know that at the end of your booking, when you've just added in your credit card details, you're going to get a utility fee at the end. So know that your price will increase by a little bit. And the last and a verified tip that I will give you is that go to lesser known places before. Like we traveled from Mumbai to Quoc. Now, even though that is an international transfer, the flight ticket at this time is coming to like a minimum of like 6,000, whereas if you travel to a metro city like Ho Chi Minh, it's coming to like double. It's coming to like 11,000 something rupees. Another important thing is that since when you're going ahead with your booking on Vietjet Air website, there is an insurance charge that gets applied automatically, so try and remove it when you see it. Next, and the most important thing that a lot of people DM'd us when we booked our flights to Vietnam was that how do you add baggage? Whatever your flight charges are, you need to pay a separate baggage charge on whatever kgs that you want to carry, right? So we were smart enough to put 20 kgs going and 20 kgs coming back because we had so much gear. But there was one friend of ours who was smarter enough that she booked 15 kg to go because she knew that she's going to shop there, and 20 kgs to come back. So that's why you can save up, because there's quite a bit of difference between taking 15 kg and 20 kg, depending on your preference.
The next thing we're going to talk about is our visas. So, visa on arrival was available, which they have just shut now. So you would have to apply it online, which can be done easily by yourself. But we chose to do it through a third party. It costed us around 2 to 4k. We did it through Yatra, again not sponsored. Yeah, it's pretty easily available. You should apply it 2 to 8 days before, because you usually get your visas in 2 days. Also, if you're wondering about COVID protocols, all you need to do is to be fully vaccinated. You don't need to get any tests done before or at the airport. You just need to be fully vaccinated and show them your certificate. One more important thing that you need to know before applying for your visa is that you need your return tickets, and also you need your hotel booking. If you're booking through booking.com, different cancellation policies, and in our cancellation policy, we chose the one where we could pay at the hotel. This was kind of a dummy booking that we did because once we reached Vietnam, we ended up staying at another hotel. If you are also unsure about where to stay and all, you can totally do like a dummy booking before you apply for your visa.
Next up, travel insurance. Very underrated. You need this to reduce any kind of risk during your travel journey. This is the first time that we booked our own insurance because usually we would just tell our parents to kind of do it for us and we would get insurance and visa together. But this time we opted for like separately, so we got a visa from a different site and our insurance from a different site. So we booked our travel insurance through a very famous app called Policy Bazaar, and we got it at a rate of $411 per person for a total of 8 days that we were traveling, so it can reduce or increase depending on the number of days you travel. The good part is that you didn't have to wait for your travel insurance to come in. As soon as you paid, as soon as you went through the whole guidelines and the terms and conditions, you get your insurance immediately. So a lot of our friends had forgotten to do their travel insurance last minute and they did it right before reaching the airport and they got their travel insurance right then. But we would recommend try and remove some time because there are a lot of inclusions and exclusions in these policies and depends on what suits best for your travelers.
Next thing we're talking about is SIM. So the first option is that you get your roaming done from India if you're traveling from here, which would cost you a little bit more extra, which is around like 4,000 rupees. But if you are deciding on buying a SIM in Vietnam, the best option to do it is at the airport. So you land, you get your baggage, and there are a lot of counters where you can literally buy the SIM from there. Also, if you are landing in a more metropolitan city like Hanoi, which is the capital, or Ho Chi Minh, places like these have 7-Eleven and also a lot of shops, mobile stores where you can literally buy the SIM for at a cheaper rate and also get like good data. But if you are landing in cities, say Quoc, where we landed, which is yet developing and yet opening up to tourists, that might get a little bit tricky. If you want to know our experience, look up the vlog which is going to come next about Quoc. It was quite a struggle for us because language is a barrier, and also in Quoc we needed a Vietnamese ID to get a SIM, and so we had to take help from our driver to do so. Internet is good, you can use WhatsApp for communication, but if you want calling, you would have to get that done through a Vietnamese ID. So you would have to recharge your phone, which has to be done through a Vietnamese ID, which might get a little bit tricky. But in our experience, you don't need that. You can totally survive on just internet. I'll give you like a quick rundown of costs if you buy from different places. So if you're buying it from like a local place or where I got my SIM, which was an eSIM by the way, it costed around 1,000 rupees and it had like 10 GB per day. Devesh bought a SIM from a 7-Eleven in Ho Chi Minh, which costed a little less. It was around 700 rupees and had 6 GB data per day. You can literally buy it from anywhere you like. Good amount of data to survive throughout the day. Make sure to let your tour companies that you're booking your tours through, let them know that you'll be only available through WhatsApp, so they're not trying to call you, because again, for calling, like I said, you would need to refill or recharge your phone, which can only be done through a Vietnamese ID.
Currency was like a big anxiety point when we were just in Vietnam, and the first 2 days were quite stressful because these notes are literally calculated in lakhs and millions, and we weren't used to that as Indian citizens. So just know that you need to be really calm when you're using Vietnamese currency, which is dongs. Sounds funny, but
God. So basically, you have to, if you are traveling from India, you get your currency exchanged to USD, and from USD you can get it exchanged into dongs in Vietnam, which could be done in airports, which could be done in local currency exchange places, which can also be done at your hotels. But that depends. You need to ask the reception whether they do exchange money or not.
And it's a good option to kind of have apps that tell you what the actual and the accurate currency exchange rate at the moment moment is, which we'll speak more about in the app section, because we realized that a lot of these different places like hotels are giving us a very expensive exchange rate compared to a local place. For example, in Ho Chi Minh, we would recommend this one company called Mekong Lighthouse Travels. This lady is really kind. She helped us with everything. She has a heart back in Vietnam right now, but she gave us a really good exchange rate, and you should try it out.
If you're traveling with someone, it's always a good idea to like make sure, like reconfirm from the person that you are actually paying the correct notes, because like in our experience, the note that said 10,000 and 100,000 looked quite similar, and there were places where I was gonna overpay, but Vietnamese people are so sweet, they just return your money back and they will never like do anything wrong with your money. But we got lucky because it was Vietnam. Otherwise, I would have gotten like looted the entire time. So it's always good to like reconfirm whether you're paying the correct notes. Also, funny story, the first day we landed, we were going, I think, in a cab, and then they said like, okay, it's just 100. So I literally thought out of like 100,000 they wanted 100, but that's not the case. Silly me, but if they say 100, they mean 100,000. If they say 10, they mean 10,000. So that's the case.
So in case you're not really confident with using cash, but you should yet have it for backup, because some places don't accept card, and some places also charge you an extra interest for card. But yeah, so we used a forex card called Neo Global, which is almost like a debit card, so it's also secure because you're not really overspending, which this person here can use.
By the way, not sponsored.
It's a debit card, like I said. You can refill in any amount whenever you require. So instead of just keeping a huge amount into that card, you can refill how much ever you require. Second thing is that you don't get charged for any currency exchange charges, which is a good thing when you're traveling. Beep beep! Going to transportation, which is quite important because most of our charges by the end of the trip were going towards transportation, which isn't something that you would want to do. So one thing that we researched before going was that in Vietnam, you cannot really drive with an Indian driving license, and so we applied for an international driving permit, which is valid for a month. And that got us charged for around 2,500 rupees, which is quite a bang on our pockets. And I would recommend try and see if you can find other third-party agents who can do it for you, or you can do it by yourself once you go to the RTO of your area. Next thing is that for us, it was really convenient to use a scooter because parking was easier and it was way faster to be able to go through all those tiny lanes and traffic that accumulates in Vietnam from time to time. So what we did was, as soon as we landed in each city, we tried to look for a rental shop where we would rent a good economic and well-equipped scooter so that we could stay safe and we would be able to reach our destination way faster without having to worry about the fact that, oh my god, we have to take a taxi, pay them separately. And trust us, we did this in the first city. We chose to not take the scooter because we were like, oh, everything's so close, and we ended up paying a bomb like around 1 million dongs just in taxis, which isn't something you should do. Other than rentals, you can also use the local buses and local taxis and local trains, which are very readily available, but make sure you do your research because we haven't really done that for you. So try and see if you can do your research and then use these sources. And when it comes to taxis, there's more about this one app called Grab, and we're going to speak about more in the app section again. One tip is that know that the traffic in Vietnam is worse than you can ever expect. People drive really violently, if I may say. There might be a red signal and there might be a green signal, but there's no difference. So just stay aware and make sure you have your helmets on because it's quite a road. And they have quite cute helmets there, so I don't think you should mind that. You might know this, but they do drive on the right side, so make sure you know how to drive on the right side rather. And know that scooty parking is readily available outside every restaurant or park or anything that you want to visit, whereas car parking is really hard to find compared to scooters.
The next section is about apps. We're going to list a few apps that might help you throughout your trip, starting with obviously Google Translate. our very own favorite. We used it throughout because language does get in the way if you're trying to communicate anywhere, be it shops, be it rental places, be it tour companies. It's always good to have Google Translate handy, especially the Google Lens feature where you can just use your camera to scan a menu to see what it actually means. So make sure you have Google Translate, use Google Lens, keep it very handy. Number 2, we used a currency app called XE. It's a very convenient app to convert your currencies. You might be wondering why not just Google to, convert your money. It's because if you're using XE, you can actually literally select the currencies that you want. So we selected USD, INR and dongs. So it gives you the exchange rate in all 3 currencies together. So it's always like a very handy thing to have, especially if you're going shopping and they're quoting a price that you don't understand. You can just put it in dongs and you would totally get it in USD and INR, and then you can compare and bargain accordingly. The next app that you should download before going is called Grab. Grab is basically like their Uber. You can book a cab, you can book scooties, and you can also order food through Grab. So it is always a good option to have it on you. For example, all our travels to the airports, we used Grab instead of booking a normal taxi because if you compare the both, Grab is a little cheaper than the normal taxis. And if you're traveling solo, Grab Scooty, like the option that you have here also in Uber, like Uber Bike, they have that in Grab as well. That is a great option to save money. The last app, I think we all know it, is Google Maps. Google Maps will be our savior because literally, like if you are living in a place like Hanoi and you're living right in the center and everything is literally nearby, it's always good to have Google Maps on your phone, which you can use to navigate and go to nearby places. You can also download your maps offline, which we actually did for all the places that we visited in case the internet gives up, which was not the case actually, but it's always a good option to keep your maps offline and use them whenever needed. Next up is food. So after all the travels, like we were traveling the entire day, we would get extremely tired and obviously we would need food. The first go-to food for us was the street food, the cheapest that you can ever imagine. It was literally like 40 rupees for fried chicken and french fries. Like 40 rupees, not even kidding. And the taste was amazing, everything was amazing. We were 5 of us together. 4 of us were non-vegetarian, so it was like a heaven for us. But one of our friends, she was vegetarian and it was kind of hard to find food for her. So if you are a vegetarian, always look for vegan places. They do not essentially understand vegetarian. So if you say vegan, they might be able to help you to point out restaurants in the city, around the city, that you can always go to. If you want to eat in restaurant, the charges are a little more, which might go up to around like 1,000 rupees. But it was convenient for us because we were 4 of us sharing it, so we could share the cost. But if you're traveling alone, that might be a little heavy on your budget. So if you are okay with street food, then that could be like a great option for you. Also, one tip that you should know is that in Vietnam, there are a lot of cafes, and if the place says cafe, it literally means cafe. It literally means you're just gonna get coffee, cakes, and these fried buns, which they call roti, by the way. So that's all you're gonna get. So make sure you're looking for a cafe plus restaurant, or like a restaurant if you are looking for food. Bonus tip, if you want to really try the Vietnamese cuisine, there are a few things that you have to try that we also tried and were amazing. One is pho, which is their noodle soup. Usually has beef or chicken in it. If you're a vegetarian, you can ask them to remove it. Next thing is nem, which is like a crispy fried spring roll. You can also try beef noodles, tiger prawns, and any kind of seafood that you can imagine. On this trip, we did try quite a bit. We tried oysters, clam shells. If this is disgusting you at this moment, just skip ahead. We also tried octopus, crabs, so we went wild. If you go to Vietnam and do not try Vietnamese coffee, that is just not right. So please do try their if you like bitter coffee, you can try the straightforward black Vietnamese coffee. But if you like a little with milk and stuff, they do have an option of milk iced coffee or condensed milk. That is the genius of it. Try the condensed milk Vietnamese coffee.
So the last thing is, where do you stay in Vietnam? Yeah, so this all comes down to the kind of trip that you want to have. It can be budget friendly, it can be mid-range, and it can be luxury. So we started off the trip in Quoc while we stayed in Fusion Resort Spa, which is more on the luxury end, which costed around 30 to 40,000 for like a 1 BHK, 2 BHK private villa with private pool. More about that in the vlog. And in the second city, which is Ho Chi Minh, we stayed in like a boutique hotel, which was quite relatively cheap if you see the facilities that it had to offer, which costed us around 2,900 rupees. This depends on which site you book it from, so check well before. And the last place was Hanoi, where we stayed in like a hostel, and that charged us around 700 per night, 700 rupees per night. And while that's quite high for a hostel, just know that there are cheaper alternatives available. Just that the hostel that we saw was really well equipped. The beds were really nice, very comfy, very private space, private bathrooms, and also a swimming pool.
If you stayed till the end of the video, here's the part where we're just gonna list the places we went to, quickly go through things that you can do, because we're gonna give a more detailed explanation of it in our vlogs. So if you see it, you'll get to know. But we're just gonna quickly go through it. The first place was Phu Quoc. So Phu Quoc is basically, you have north, midtown and south. North is the most secluded part. Our resort was actually in the north, so it took a lot of time to travel to do all the things, but we chose to stay there because Fusion is a very nice resort, very calm, so we wanted that experience, and we were there. If you come towards the midtown, you have Sao Beach and all the other beaches where you can go to. There are restaurants, one specifically stood out, that was Rory's Club. If you go towards the south, you can do things like the cable car that takes you to an island which is called the Pineapple Island, Hantham, I'm pronouncing it. Hantham Island, which has like a water park. It's called Sun World, and you can spend like half a day there. So a lot of things to do. Also in Phu Quoc, there is a place called Grand World Phu Quoc, which is like literally an entire city built with activities, markets, shopping, local food, normal food, restaurants. So you can literally spend like a day there. Also in Phu Quoc, not just in Phu Quoc actually, in every place that you go there are tours that you can book, but we chose to do everything by ourselves so that we could explore a little bit more.
So next city in the tour was, in the tour was Ho Chi Minh, which is also famously known as Saigon. And the city is really famous for the tours that it has to offer and the nightlife. And so if you like nightlife, this is a great option to come. If you're staying in Ho Chi Minh and you want to try and explore a lot more, try and stay in District 4, which is why we chose Hotel Le Jardin Secret, which was quite in the central part of the city, so we could explore both sides of the city. For the nightlife, we were on the Bouye Bien Walking Street, which is quite famous there, and you shouldn't miss this at all.
It's like an entire club on a street. So it was pretty fun. We also found LGBTQ friendly bars there, so it was an amazing experience. Next up is Cat Ba Island, which is an island where you have to go through Hanoi. So it took us around like 3 hours through bus, then a small ferry, then a small bus ride again to reach there, but totally worth it. The reason we did Cat Ba and not Ha Long Bay was because Cat Ba is more secluded. It has a population of about like 12,000 people, so you can imagine how peaceful, how quiet it is. The best part about Cat Ba are the restaurants. You can get any kind of food that you want, Asian, American, whatever you need to eat, and like the best food that we have had in. They also have a lot of good vegetarian options, so if you're a vegetarian, totally easy for you to be there. Things that you can do is book a tour. It could be a half-day tour, it could be a full-day tour of kayaking, swimming in the waters, going through a ferry. You can also do like exploring the islands, different islands on Cat Ba and the caves there. So that could also be something that you could do for yourself.
So our last city that we visited in Vietnam was Hanoi. So after coming back from Cat Ba town, we went to Hanoi. We just chilled there. We didn't want to explore too many tours because we were really tired by the end of the trip. We would recommend, if you do happen to have a chance to be able to book your flight right to Hanoi as your first city, do that, because all of these things are readily available and at a great rate.
Also, people do speak English there, a lot of people, so it might be like a easy adaptation for you to like being in Vietnam. Also, a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. If you can book your stay around the weekend in Hanoi, that is a great option, because they have these weekend night market which just happens on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Unfortunately, we had to leave on a Friday, that too in the afternoon, and we totally missed that. But if you have that opportunity, do book it on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so that you can experience the night market. Otherwise, there's Beer Street, which is famously known for cheap food, cheap beer. If you are into that, then that's totally your place. Also, shopping there is cheaper compared to the other places. So literally, like a pair of shoes that we saw in Ho Chi Minh was like half the price here in Hanoi, and then we could bargain on top of that. Know that you can bargain, know that they are open to that. So get your bargaining games on.
So we're gonna end it there. I don't think we've missed out on anything that you require before you take your trip to Vietnam, and we hope that you have a good time there. Any other questions that you have for us, and just before you're taking your trip, you can hit us down in the comments and we'll answer them for you.
Just know that it's gonna be an amazing time, even though language could be a barrier there, even though you might be a little frustrated at some points, but know that it's gonna be an amazing time. The people are amazing. They will step out their shops to help you. They will go beyond their limits to help you. So it is always a very safe, very peaceful and a very kind place to visit. So we hope that you have a better time than we did. All the best for your trip.
Until then, bye.
Fir milenge.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Oh, auf Wiedersehen.
Fir milenge, chalte chalte.